the Tuesday edition for this week with me, Farish Majid, and our final destination, of course, is 9 o'clock. And at 9, that's when I will be leaving the studios for the next crew to come. That is of Aerolas, led by Fateh Manuel. And thereafter, the rest of the programs also will be subsequently following. And that is where I want to welcome you, in especially from wherever you're watching us from. I want to say welcome on board into the show. And we are going to be doing this with you up to 9 o'clock. Remember, you too can still be part of the show, where you can still share your thoughts, opinions on what we shall be discussing here with you up to 9 o'clock. Today I'm alone. I do not have any guest. I do not even have my co-host, and I will be doing this with you up to, of course, 9 o'clock. And remember, in here, I will be letting you know of so many stories right from the region. I will be touching on some of the discussions of what is happening internationally, and I will be also letting you know of what continues to make rounds in the world of sport. And if you talk about sport as an activity, today it is actually an activity that is employing a number of people, both directly and indirectly, and that is where we shall be also letting you know of what is making rounds in there in the world of sports. And that is where allow me also to welcome you on board and say so many stories going to happen. And today happens to be the 12th day into the month of November. We are still counting down to so many activities, and so many activities continue to happen. And all in all, I will be letting you know of what is happening within the areas, within the jurisdictions. But the opportunity is that we need to understand what is making rounds locally in here, so that we also get to know what, maybe how we can be able to sort of protect ourselves. And that is where, to begin off with the stories on the monitor, this is in Nebi, where a patient has died also in hospital water tank, and what exactly caused the incident is what remains unknown. But I can confirm to you an identified patient has been found dead after falling into a water tank at Nebi Hospital in northern Uganda. And the hospital administrator, Mr. Christopher Ngom, said the patient was last night taken also to the facility by police while unconscious before he was admitted in the emergency ward. And he repeatedly also escaped from the ward. And this morning before he was later found dead in the water tank. What could have happened? Could he have maybe hidden the water tank to escape? Oh. Could there have been something that could have taken place? Definitely that is what remains unknown. And according to Ngom, the hospital director, the patient fell in the tank, which was full of water and which was estimated a capacity of 20,000 liters, mounted against the retained wall below, that is the ground surface. And the patient has been rushed to the hospital by police after a mob attack on allegations of theft. And that is exactly what happened in there. Mr. Ethan Omirambe, a security guard that is at the hospital, said he heard a sound of splashing water in the direction of the emergency unit. I immediately also reported the incident to my boss, who later instructed me to run to the police to report the same incident in the same night. That is according to Omirambe in there. Now, this police commander, Mr. Philbert Waibi, said they are waiting for relatives to claim the body, and they already removed the body also from the hospital water tank. And according to information we are receiving, and the body is now at the hospital mortuary. That is also postmortem, and that is also for the relatives to claim their body. And this is the first time such instance is happening, and reported also at the hospital, according to information we are receiving from there. And that is exactly what we did also see happening in there. And we hope this time round we shall be seeing also such activities continue, and that is where we also wouldn't want to see such continue to happen in future, because it is really very much unfair for us to also lose lives of innocent people like that. And this is also where we also do not want to see lives lost, even if the people are guilty. We do not want to see life lost. We want people to see people reform. In most cases, I feel the bad people also still can reform. And how do we engage them into ventures that can also really make them reform is what really matters. I would want to see how this, of course, will be ending, and how this also will be generating at least some bit of peace and sanity also in there. And that is where we shall be seeing also the society living peacefully, because for us to live in a peaceful society, it means those who are bad should reform. And that is where we also expect them to now do things that are expected out of them. We wouldn't want to see people also really in activities that are very much bad, and that would at the end of the day term them also really very, very much bad in there. But that is what continues to happen. We hope also such similar instances do not happen in the future. Leaving that aside, the Uganda government, together with the DRC leaders, have united to also fight cross-border crimes, and this was in Arua City, and an incident that happened recently. and security. Politicians and cultural leaders from Uganda and Democratic Republic of Congo have jointly agreed that is to fight cross-border crime that has been escalating in the two countries for over the years. And if we talk about crimes, today we realize also the cross-border crimes is what we have been seeing happening. Robbery happening also across the two countries, where the robbers sometimes harm that side and escape this side. Then meanwhile we also have those who do crime here and escape in DRC. Now the leaders have committed to also end such cross-border crimes, and we hope this time around this also will be ending. And this was in a meeting which we did see happening last week. The authorities from both countries met for a two-day cross-border meeting that's in Arua City, which consisted of a delegation also of 30 from Arua and 30 leaders from Western Sub-region, from the districts of Arua City, Arua District and Maracha, who also had that meeting in there, and authorities from the both countries agreed to also end this, and the leaders also agreed to boost collaboration, nothing with criminality at the borders, which was hindering business in there. And remember, so many issues have been also affecting the people of that area, and for instance, business related, and that is where also we have been seeing that. And then security issues have as well been happening in there, and that is where we did see the Aru territorial leader, that's Colonel Richard Mbambi, also said the countries should also connect vigorously to advocate for Pan-Africanism, and that is exactly what we are also looking forward to. And Arua Resident City Commissioner Salim Kumaket said there is need to fast-track the cross-border criminality, which I feel is something that also has been in there, and we hope this time round this will not be continuing to happen, and this is where we want to see also the leaders uniting to also make sure they draw means to eradicating some of this cross-border criminality, and that is where at the end of the day we will be seeing this criminality reducing. And Salim also went on to urge tax education for the businessmen so that international tax legislations are known and adhered to in the course of doing business. And yes, indeed, this is also another issue which we feel must also be able to be understood. Because if you look at DRC and Uganda, we realize that we have different laws and the implementation is also in a different way. And sometimes when the Congolese also enter Uganda, they find it very much difficult in terms of also adhering to our laws, and that is where our laws are a bit strict for them, and our laws, they find it also a bit pressing. It means the government of DRC also has a task to play in terms of sensitizing and educating their locals about the laws of their country, so that already when they come to Uganda, they also find these laws very new. Now leaders also at the meeting denounced criminality, including stealing of cars that end up in DRC, killing of both businessmen and locals from both sides, armed robberies, criminal using the two countries as hideouts after committing crimes also in their countries, and continued smuggling of gold, motorcycles, fuel and timber. These were the issues also that we did see happening in there. Now, existing data from Arua City Police indicates that at least 30 stolen cars from Uganda were recovered in DRC in 2009, and 25 cars also in 2010, at least 20 recovered in 2011, and 5 cars were recovered in 2012. And this is what we did see happening in there. Now the brigade, 409 Brigade Commander in charge of West Nile Sub-region, Lieutenant Nathan Baino Mugisha, called for enhanced vigilance and swift joint also sharing of information on criminals disturbing the two countries. Now the Deputy Director General for Special Operations International, that's Internal Security Organization, that is General Taban Amin, said we are interlinked and interconnected. People connecting also crimes are our children, and this is also where we need to sort of make sure that we also eradicate this, because these children also committing these crimes belong to us. And this is what I want to agree with the General also in there, and you find out that indeed those doing criminality in DRC and using Uganda as hideouts, in most cases are still our own. There's no way you're going to be riding away from them and saying that these are not our children. And I want to agree that indeed these are our children. But how do we make sure that they not also engage in such criminal activities is what really matters. And at the end of the day, we wouldn't want to see people being butchered, because we have seen people being also butchered on the way, and they end up stealing this motorcycle from DRC as they're escaping. In most cases, we see roadblocks to intercept them, and once they're intercepted, what ends? Maybe where the story ends is where we only see bodies. It's really something which has been there. But how do we end this? And how can we tell our young children to also desist from such practices of also depending on theft or robbery for survival, other than also adopting to some of those also ways of earning? And that is where we did see in their final resolutions, the two leaders also agreed that in a final unique also communique signed by both parties, it was resolved that people also be treated with dignity and humanly also at the cross-border as well as within the territories during also control, search or arrests. And it also agreed that leaders should promote local solutions to local problems in the management of cross-border security concerns, as raise awareness among businessmen about their own safety and security of their businesses. And that is one thing also which I feel is really very, very much good for us to also be talking about. Because if you look at all this, then you realize that, yes, indeed, there's really a lot more that we need to do. And there's really a lot more that we need to do when it comes to such issues. And that is where we wouldn't want to see more lives be lost, because we have had over the years lost lives. Then it's time for us to also go back and tell our children that much as we are looking for survival, but this is what we need to do to also make sure that we survive and avoid also ourselves from landing into trouble. This is what we need to do, and that would also at the end of the day make the young children also understand that without criminality, they can still live their own lives in there. And that is where we're going to leave that discussion aside. And as we get to move on, in the Juma district this time around, we are seeing there's a move to cut annual maternal deaths, that is to 0, and this is a story that we are seeing on the monitor. And this also follows after donation from Stanbic Bank. Now, authorities at Ajumani Hospital have also said they intend to cut the annual maternal deaths to 0 amid its persistent challenges in the health sector. Now, the Ministry of Health recently ranked Ajumani Hospital third best among over 63 government hospitals with low mortality rates nationwide. And this is where we did see Ajumani Hospital Senior Administrator Michael just said the recognition highlights the facility's commitment towards improved quality health care, including ending up mortality rates also in the country. And that is also what we did see happening in there, and what can the rest of the health facilities in the country learn from. I really want to say there's really a lot more they can be able to sort of learn from also the Ajumani Hospital, which is also some district that is a bit not very far within also the city. It's a bit far connecting South Sudan to Uganda in there, and if at all they can be able to sort of do that, then it means the rest of the health facilities can achieve. And know that the maternal mortality cases have significantly decreased from 12 to 4 annually in the last few years, and according to Ojah Hospital, annually handles approximately that's 4,693 at antenatal visits and 3,243 deliveries, of which 29 result in stillbirths. And through partners at Ajumani Hospital on Sunday launched an initiative also aimed at eliminating maternal mortality, inspired by a recent recognition. And that is where we did see the district located in the Western Sub-region. Ajumani also today hospital was established in 2000 and has a capacity of 100 beds, currently managing over 200 admissions and 450 outpatient daily. And that is where we see also that happening. And definitely you will be able to sort of understand that this facility is now over. Now the hospital also serves as a diverse population, including 250,000 refugees from South Sudan who reside in 19 settlements in the district. And on Sunday, the chairperson of the board of directors at Stanbic Bank, that is Damoni Kitabire, announced also the equipment worth 18 million, which includes a modern oxygen concentrator. We have also patient transportation stretcher, pulse oximeter, and we have also the digital BP machine, and among others, which have been also donated to the facility. And we hope this time round, this also will be achieving also and doing a lot when it comes to serving the point there. Now he underscored the investing in health services is crucial for better development of the country. A health facility, a healthy individual can contribute meaningfully to society. That's according to the board chairperson of Stanbic, who was actually part of also the team that also donated the health facility. And but it's not the very first time we're seeing this also health facility donating. Recently, we did see them also donating to Terego district, and that is at Tuku Health Center 3. To 2, and they went to Madiokolo, and this was also a donation to Okolo Health Center 2. And this time around, they have gone to Ajumani Hospital. We wouldn't also want to let that go unnoticed. And we hope this time around also that these donations can be in position to certainly do their best in terms of serving the locals in there. And that brings us to the end of this half. And when we bounce back, we are going to be continuing with more of the discussions. And you can still share your thoughts and opinions on what maybe you feel this maybe can be absolutely, and how this can also be able to improve on the health facility and the health sector in the region. For now, we are taking a short commercial break. When we bounce back, we shall be continuing from there. My name is Farish Majid. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
In the dance of shadows and light lies the heart of Uganda's resilience amidst the challenges of the night, where innovation meets necessity and education refuses to be dimmed, where connection thrives in the absence of power. Embrace the power of the sun with StarTime's solar range of solutions and empower your journey towards a brighter tomorrow. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back. We are in the second half of the first hour, and this is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV, channel 477. That is on StarTimes and on 0073 on Zuku. Not forgetting our new baby, that is Azam, on channel 369. And that does also really remain in there. We are live all across our social media platforms where you can be in position to watch us. That is each and every morning. That is from Mondays to Fridays, only on the different media platforms. That is on Facebook. You can be able to watch us on Western Television. We are there on X. You can still be able to follow us on. And not forgetting YouTube, you can still be in position to also watch us in there each and every mornings, Mondays to Fridays, and that is where we also come back big and stronger to also let you know what's happening in there. And that is where we would also want to take the opportunity to welcome you on board as we are discussing all this. Remember, we are still witnessing A lot more happening. That is in terms of also already voter identification. And now the mapping for the people who are living with disability is already on. And it's actually set to end also already within 2 days. And that is of tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. And this time around, we shall be seeing that ending. And that is to identify the numbers of the PWDs in the country. And that is where we hope. If at all you know of anybody who has not been mapped, this time around we hope they are mapped. And that is where we want to see each and every person be mapped. And in case there is any budgeting, let it be there. And we want to see how this people can also be able to benefit from the different government programs. Because if you look at the different government programs, many of them target the PWDs. They target also the vulnerable communities. And that is where we hope they will be able to get what belongs to them. And we also want to see them also exercise their powers in determining the kind of leaders they would wish to also have. Because they are stakeholders. They can be able to influence and determine also on the people also maybe who will be able to lead them also in their their next also years in there. Because as you're counting down, that is where we will be able to understand that we are counting down the days to the end of the year actually running, and the gap also to the next general elections is actually bridging. And the question remains, how ready are we also for the next elections, and how prepared are you to have also the new leaders, or maybe also the 10-year-old leaders in there, and what have they done? This is only where we need to also make sure that we also ask ourselves. And leaving that discussion aside, 3 men are accused of spreading hate speech and also instigating public disorder will be presented today. That is at the Entebbe Magistrate High Court. And the case has garnered significant public attention as authorities also increase efforts to combat online and offline hate speech across the Ugandan borders in there. That's exactly what we did see. And now the accused are Julius Taebwa, a 19-year-old self-employed citizen that's a resident of Kirungi, Seven Mubende district. We have David Sengozi, known as Lucky Choice, a 21-year-old businessman from Nancy in Wakiso district. And we have Isaiah Sekagiri, a 28-year-old businessman from Gimbo in Wakiso district, who have also been arrested also for spreading hate speech and also instigating public disorder in there, and they have been arrested. And this time around, if you talk about the Computer Misuse Act, how do the citizens know about this? Because under the laws, there's no ignorance of the law, which it can also cannot serve as defense. And that's also where the laws are clear. There's no way you're going to be saying, I did not know about these laws. Ignorance of the law is never defense. And that is where we will also want to encourage people to solve this from tendencies of misusing the social media, because many of the time people misuse social media to insult others, to also do violence, to cause a lot of bad things here and there. And we hope that this does not also happen. And now the charges also stem from alleged incident earlier this year, in which the defendants also reportedly shared inflammatory messages through social media and other platforms. And that is where these also arrested include the messages. So these messages, according to prosecutors, threaten public order and targeted specific communities, fueling tensions in the region. And that is where these people have been arrested. Now the Uganda's legal system also suggests that case could also set a significant precedent, particularly in defining also the limits of free speech on social media. Today, if we talk about freedom of speech, does it call for instilling of violence? Does it call for insults? Does it call for maybe activities that ridicule others? Definitely, I want to say no. There's no way you're going to be ridiculing others and think that you're exercising your freedom of speech. You would have broken also another person's rights. You would have infringed on the person's right. And that is where we are saying you must therefore also do some tendencies that also will make others look very bad. That is what we need to do as we are getting on. Because if you look at the issues of misuse of social media, today it is actually a common practice, most especially amongst the youths. But how do we end this? And how do we make sure that this does not continue to happen is what really matters. And I hope at the end of the day that this also will not be able to continue in that. Now the proceedings which are expected to be open to the public will likely attract close attention from legal and human rights organizations, media, and also the activists across Uganda. And this is where we expect justice for all the parties. Even if these people are using their freedom, it must also be that. These people's freedoms do not undermine others' freedom, and that is where we are going to be also leaving that discussion aside. You can still share your thoughts and also share your opinions on what we are discussing this early morning in here. And I hope at the end of the day there's a lesson that you learn from these colleagues who have also been arrested and now being paraded also from misusing social media. I believe there's a lesson that you should be learning and also picking this early morning. And that message is that you must ensure responsible usage of the media. You may be thinking of it being just a phone, but you never know, the phone could actually land you in trouble. And that is where I hope at the end of the day that you pick a lesson, and you must also be able to do some such practices. And at the end of the day, that shouldn't also be the case, that we'll be able to continue and land you in trouble. And that is where I will be leaving also that discussion aside. And I hope at the end of the day, there's a lesson that you maybe pick from there. Now in Chitagwenda, we are seeing the health officials rally to combat also the teenage pregnancy crisis. And this is also really what I want to also implore the rest of the districts, most especially in Western sub-region, to also really pick a lesson from, because if you look at issues of teenage pregnancy, it is really something which I want to say is a disaster. Now in Chitagwenda, health officials in the district are stepping up efforts to address a troubling rise in teenage pregnancies and early marriages, which are putting young girls at risk and straining the local health system. And while also that there has been a slight, also 1% decrease in reported cases this year, officials emphasize that the comprehensive response is needed to tackle the problem. And Dr. Irene Kahima-Kazi, the acting district health officer, revealed that Ntara Health Center 4 alone also revealed records over 20 cases of teenage pregnancies each month, mostly involving girls of age 15 to 14 years who are getting pregnant. That means we must all join efforts to also make sure that this does not also happen anymore, and let the young girls also learn that teenage pregnancy is never good. And last year, teenage pregnancies accounted to 18% of all recorded pregnancies in Chitagwenda, illustrating the scale of the challenge. And that is where it is also really huge. If you look at 18%, you get to know that this number is quite huge. Now she highlighted the health risks young mothers face, noting that many experience severe complications, most especially during childbirth, which often requires cesarean sections, and that is where we are seeing also that becoming a challenge. Now, one of the primary drivers behind the high teenage pregnancy has been identified as the district's high also rate of school dropout, which leaves many girls vulnerable to early marriages and pregnancies. And that means we must also join hands and encourage the parents to continue keeping their girls in schools. Let them continue fulfilling their parental obligations of paying school fees and of offering protection to their girls also in the hands of vulnerable community members, maybe the vultures. And that is where at the end of the day we will be able to see these young girls who are vulnerable to early pregnancies and early marriages solely continue solely with their education. And Dr. Kahima-Kazi called on parents, educators and community leaders to join forces in raising awareness, encouraging young girls to remain in school and safeguarding their health and future. And health officials are hopeful that by increasing community involvement and resources for adolescent health services, Chitagwenda can reverse the trend, and that is exactly what in teenage pregnancy, which is indeed a great challenge. Because if you look at issues of teenage pregnancy, you realize that many today girls are getting pregnant, most especially with the return of this grasshopper period. There's danger. I want to assure you that there's danger which is also really looming ahead, because we are seeing the young girls moving out at night unprotected without company of elders. Where do they go and who do they move out with? And where do they get grasshoppers from? As parents, do you ask yourselves these questions? Because we are now seeing this happening. And where is this going to be putting our children and our future of these young girls at? Because if you really see this happening, then you get to understand that indeed there's really something which is a challenge. And which challenge we must all join hands and eradicate at the end of the day in here. And now health officials are hopeful by increasing this community awareness, which I wouldn't also want to only see remain in Chitagwenda, but be extended to the rest of the country, we will be able to solely address the high teenage pregnancies and early marriages in the area. Now, through a focused, community-based approach, the district aims to create a safer environment where young girls also can thrive and contribute to the area's socio-economic transformation. And that is where we hope this also will be sending a lesson to the rest of the districts in terms of solely picking a lesson also from what is happening in Chitagwenda in there. Still in health, this time around in Mbarara City, but in related to animal health, Mbarara City also in a bid to contain recurring outbreaks of foot and mouth disease, the district has launched a major vaccination drive, bolstered by also the first delivery of 20,000 doses from the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries in there. Now the new shipment follows an initial batch sent in May this year, making a renewed effort to protect livestock and stabilize the livelihoods affected also in Uganda's western parts of this country, where we talk about the Western Cattle Corridor. And Dr. Amanyire Moses, a senior veterinary officer from Mbarara City, emphasized the urgency of vaccination drive, urging local cattle farmers to take up full advantage of the initiative by taking their animals for vaccination. And that is exactly what I also want to encourage our people, those who will also be in position to get these vaccines, to also undertake the same. Now the vaccination campaign forms also part of Uganda's national biannual FMD vaccination program, which aims at fostering long-term immunity, that's in livestock, and reduced livestock outbreaks. And that is where we also talk about the reduction of disease outbreak amongst the livestock. And that is where, if at all animal health is not well checked, then at the end of the day, we are going to be seeing many people be pushed out in terms of also really raising their animals which are safe for human consumption. Because if you look at tendencies of animal disease, for instance, the zoonotic diseases, then you realize that indeed the repercussions not only remain to the animals, because at the end of the day, we are going to be consuming the same meat that comes from these animals, and then we end up also really getting the zoonotic diseases. And that is where we are saying, if an animal has died as a result of an unknown disease, as citizens, let's desist from practices of consuming the animals, because we see people solely running for the carcasses, people running for the meat. At the end of the day, consume this meat even without burning it, because people do not roast this meat, and at the end of the day, we see people solely consuming that meat as it is, which subjects them to a lot of diseases. First of all, the zoonotic diseases like rabies and others. We have seen people solely getting this, and meat disease, and these are issues also which I feel at the end of the day, people must also be able to sort of control themselves against, because if they not also get control of diseases, then it is indeed a great concern and a great challenge for the rest of the country. Now in Mbarara City, after receiving the disease, they will be beginning by next year only vaccinating animals with proper certification, which will be permitted also to livestock markets, adding a significant incentive to farmers to participate also in this exercise of vaccinating their animals. This is a quite good gesture, because if people do not also really bring meat that is vaccinated, at the end of the day, where are we going to be subjected to? I really feel it is also us that are going to be put at risk, first of all, of consuming meat that is not also proper for human consumption, and that is where at the end of the day it will be also a great concern. Now in the final appeal, Dr. Manyire called on farmers in the cattle corridor to make the most opportunity and take advantage of it, and that's solely to have their animals vaccinated. And that is where at the end of the day we shall be seeing also many people protecting themselves from those diseases, and that is where at the end of the day we wouldn't want to see people also suffering from those bad diseases. And that is where at the end of the day I want to also stop with the disease, but you can still share thoughts and opinions on how best we can be able to eradicate some of these diseases in there. And that is where at the end of the day we shall be seeing also that ending. Meanwhile, leaving that discussion aside, police are yet to arrest suspects in Pastor Bujingo's attempted shooting. That is exactly what we are seeing here. Meanwhile, we are seeing police are still searching for assailants who opened fire on Pastor Aloysius Bujingo 10 months ago, leaving his driver dead. And now the incident has already happened at around 9 p.m. That was at Bolakata Junction, that's in Namungona in Kasubin Raga Division on January 2nd. And now the hunt is still on. Up to now, 9 months down the road, no arrest has been made yet. And who are the perpetrators? And who are also the ones that are responsible for the causing of this incident? Now the incident also left Pastor Bujingo from House of Prayer Ministries International Kampala injured, while also his bodyguard Corporal Richard Muumuza dead in there. And remember, the soldier attached to the Special Forces Command later succumbed to injuries also from the bullet also in there. Now the deceased, whose body also the colleagues said was in his late 30s, hailed from Sambwe district, and now the deceased also had served Pastor Bujingo as the bodyguard for only 10 months. Now police had earlier offered a shillings 20 million also prize offer to any member of the public who had any information about also really those suspects in there. But up to date, nothing has happened 9 months down the road. Should we continue to have hope that the victim also will be brought to book? Definitely, that is entirely for judgment by you, the viewer. You can still share your thoughts and share your opinions in relation to this incident. Now, police investigations also indicate that pistol in the shooting was linked, that is, to the one that also was used to kill vlogger Ismail Alexis. And that is where today we also say that because the blogger also died as a result of also the gunshots. And up to date, that is where we are still seeing cases of gun use. Who are the ones that killed these two? Now the shooting mystery adds to many also really we're seeing others also happen in the recent years with no conclusive investigations. Now in June 2018, the then Arua Municipality Member of Parliament, Ibrahim Abiriga, was also already murdered as he approached near his home in Kawanda, which is in Wakiso district, and to date. The suspect has been also, no suspect has been charged in court over the crimes. That means also the investigation have not been conclusively conducted. And now police had initially also arrested a boy from a neighboring homestead who had dropped also a mobile phone handset. That's at the scene of crime. But later police also released him after realizing the juvenile had dropped the phone there accidentally. And on May 6, 2023, vlogger Ismail Alexis was shot and killed in his car by unknown assailants in Chanja as he was also heading home, which was really something we did happening also happening in Kampala. Now, however, up to now, no suspects have been arrested. What does it also really speak about our investigations in this country? Are they conclusively being conducted? Really, that is where also really I want you as the viewer to share your opinions and share your thoughts about this matter, because many times you have seen this happening. No investigations have been conducted conclusively, and this is where we just see suspects being arrested, and after 2 to 3 years, they are released because there's no evidence to pin them. And in most cases, also, this also makes the members of the public feel that these people who are being arrested are the ones that are innocent. How can police also really up its game in terms of sort of making sure that this does not maybe going to happen? Because we want to see this end, and this is where at the end of the day we didn't want to see this continue. And that is one issue also which you as the viewer can still share your thoughts and opinions with us as we get to move on. Leaving that discussion aside, three TikTokers have been remanded for insulting President Museveni and the first son, General Muhoozi, and that is what we are seeing here, where 2 youths have been remanded to prison for allegedly insulting President Museveni, his family, and threatening to also really, that's also threatening also their peace. And that is what we are seeing also here, and it's alleged that also they insulted President Museveni, his family, and 3 also really ruling nationalism movement artists through a short video that was already shared on TikTok, and now they are being arrested. Now the arrested also include, that is David Sengozi, known as also Lucky Choice, and Isaiah Sekagiri, who were also arrested on Monday and we are also remanded until November 13th on allegations that they spread hate speech. And that is what we are also questioning the young people also against. As you are using that handset, how do you use it? Are you using it to get followers, which at the end of the day will land in trouble? Or you want to be known by force? And that is also where at the end of the day it leaves you in trouble, which I want to say is not very much good. We must desist from if we want to live peacefully. Now, Entebbe Chief Magistrate, that is Stella Maris Amabilis, had on Monday that between the month of September and October 2024, in Wakiso District, Sengozi, through his TikTok account, that is Lucky Choice 70, through a computer, shared the message that has been termed as of hate speech, and that is where we also did see him being arrested for that, and they will be charged under the Computer Misuse Act. And how ready are we also for these challenges in terms of also really ending also really the misuse of computer, which also at the end of the day lands us in trouble? It's what really matters, and most importantly, what we must also really be able to embark on. And that is where we're going to be leaving a discussion with, and as we get to move on, remember so many issues continue to happen, but my appeal will be to the young people that let's avoid tendencies also of landing us in trouble. For instance, through the use of this social media, because it's not the very first time. Over the years, we have seen a number of people being arrested. At one time, we had one who was arrested for insulting President Museveni and the Kabaka. This time around, we're seeing 2 also being arrested. So it means there's really a lot more that we need to do in terms of also using this social media responsibly. Let's avoid tendencies of this indecent behavior, of misusing the social media, which at the end of the day lands us in trouble. And my appeal would be to the government to really let's come on board and also really arrest those who are misusing social media. First of all, in terms of spreading bad messages, for instance, pornography, let's also arrest them. And that is where, if at all we started parading them also before the courts of law, we never know. The acts of indecent dressing will be able to reduce. And that is where I would also want to say government should not only regulate the speech or the Computer Abuses Act to only arresting those who are insulting others. Let's also come back and arrest those who are possessing indecent behavior on social media, who are portraying also those skimpy dresses, most especially with ladies. And that is where I want to also see that happening, and that would at the end of the day improve on sanity in this country, and where we shall be once again living peacefully. And for us to live peaceful, there's really a lot more, because today if you look at our elders, they also look at the way we dress as very much badly, which indeed is true. It means there's really a lot more that we need to do also really as citizens, as stakeholders.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
In the dance of shadows and light lies the heart of Uganda's resilience amidst the challenges of the night, where innovation meets necessity and education refuses to be dimmed, where connection thrives in the absence of power. Embrace the power of the sun with StarTime's solar range of solutions, and empower your journey towards a brighter tomorrow. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Two minutes after 8 o'clock, which is our second hour, and we are going to be discussing a lot of issues here and there with you right in the corridors of current affairs. I will be touching on what's happening in the world of politics, not forgetting what continues to make rounds in the world of sports. Of course, that will be coming towards the end of the show. And that's where I want to welcome in board. In case you're just joining us right now, you're most welcome from wherever you're watching us from to the show, which also really starts your ways every Mondays to Fridays, right from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock with me, Farish Majid, where we discuss all that. And remember, you also, as the viewer, can still be part of the show by sharing your thoughts and opinions on our comment section. For those of you watching us online, you can drop your comments in there, and we shall be in position to share and read with the rest of the viewer. And that is where I will be in position to really go through some of those also issues. Now, remember, over the time, we have been talking about the issues of a proposal that came in during the Gulu plenary sittings, where one of the letters presented and also wanted the leader opposition position in parliament be voted for by all the members of parliament under the opposition, opposed to how it is today, where it is being also appointed by the leading opposition group in Uganda. And how do we determine the leading opposition group? It is actually through the opposition group that presents the highest numbers of, that is, opposition in the parliament, and that is where we get to also know the biggest opposition group in parliament. And today it is a national platform, which is actually the biggest opposition group in Uganda, where they did also appoint, that is Honorable Joel Sanyui, a former journalist, and who was now being appointed as the leader of opposition in parliament, replacing Matthias Impuga, who also has issues, where today we are seeing also him being embattled in there. But now the government also has rejected the proposal to hold elections, that is for the leader of opposition in parliament, arguing that such a move would be contrary to the legal framework and would interfere with the party autonomy. And now instead it has called for amendments, that is also on the Amendment of a Parliament Act, to amend, that's also to mandate the presence of either the Prime Minister or Minister of Finance at Parliament Commission also meetings when key decisions are being made. And that is what also we did see being presented in there. But if you look at the leader of opposition, Parliament position, this has actually sparked mixed reactions. And I know right now those who have been opposing this must also be jubilated. Now the state's position was revealed in a written submission by Deputy Attorney General, that is Jackson Kafuzi, to the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, which is reviewing the Administration of Parliament Amendment Bill 2024 Act. And we hope this time round, this also wouldn't also just stop in there. Now the bill, which was proposed by Mitiana South Member of Parliament, Richard Lumu, also seeks to introduce reforms, including other opposition parties members in the parliament to also elect the leader of opposition parliament, creating a second slot for smaller opposition parties on the parliamentary commission. And that is what we did see happening in there, but this time around we have seen it being rejected. And Kafuzi made it clear that the government considers the proposal to elect the leader of opposition parliament from other opposition parties as a contradiction of the mandate given by the people. Now, he emphasized the position of the leader of opposition is determined by the internal procedures of the largest opposition group in the parliament, and the proposal that also is more of a policy matter than a legal one in there. And that is what we did see the Deputy Attorney General, Jackson Kafuzi, guiding also on this matter in there. And that is what exactly is happening. And government has now clearly rejected it. And we hope this time around that this matter will be put aside. And we did see the Deputy Attorney General pointing out that the proposal would also undue financial burden on the consolidated fund and also violating Article 93, subsection 1A. That's sort of the Constitution. And that is where this was rejected. And this time around, we hope also that this also won't also spark any more debates, because it has been also a matter of public discussion, most especially amongst the politicians. But now we hope this also is done and dusted, and we hope at the end of the day this will not continue. Now, in contrast to the proposals, government has put forward a recommendation for amendments of the Administration of Parliament Act. And the proposal suggests that the quorum at Parliament also Commission meetings should include the leader of government business or the Ministry of Finance, especially when decisions involve financial matters or require parliamentary approval. And that is where we did see them also now being asked to also be part of the discussions. Now the Deputy Attorney General also highlighted the comparative study on the selection of the leader of opposition in various jurisdictions, urging that the proposed model was not also in line with international practices. And now decided also which include countries like Kenya, where the same is being conducted, Ghana, Zambia, the United Kingdom, India, Australia, Singapore, and the United States, which also the nations, I must say, have exhibited some bit of democracy, also really is what we are seeing it happening in that way in there. Now that's exactly what we are also going to be seeing, that also really be rejected on those grounds, and we hope also really the movers and the shakers of this motion will also take it in bad faith, because the examples of countries being given are countries which I must also say are ahead of us in democracy. Look at Kenya. There's no doubt you're going to be saying we are ahead of Kenya in terms of democracy. We all know Kenya exhibits some bit of democracy more than Uganda. This is something we cannot also really underscore. What about the United States of America? Definitely they are ahead of us in terms of democracy, and sometimes what we copy is from them. What about India? These are countries where we're exhibiting this kind of policy where the leader of opposition parliament comes from the leading also the opposition group, and that is exactly where this was copied from, and we hope this time around also this will not also be ending. Now the response also underscores the importance of preserving the constitutional balance of power while emphasizing the role of policy decisions, which is in terms of determining also the structure of opposition leadership. And as the Legal also and Parliamentary Affairs Committee continues its review of Administration of Parliament Amendment Bill of 2004 Act, it remains also ready to be seen whether government proposals to perform will also be accepted, if the opposition will push for further amendments. Now the debate highlights the ongoing tensions between the political autonomy and the constitutional governance in Uganda's legislative process, and that is exactly what we are seeing happening this time around in there. And we hope this also will be also ending also in a way that also will be well. And that is where we also expect that this also wouldn't also just end like that. And we hope at the end of the day that this will be moving in a swift way. Leaving that discussion aside, we have so many stories going to make rounds. And over the months, we have been talking about stories between Matthias Impuga and Noop. And this time around, he has come out to also speak out again that we wanted to give Bobby a chance to lead a new party, and that is according to Matthias Impuga. One of the stories that we are seeing this morning on the Nile Post in there. Now, Parliamentary Commissioner Matthias Impuga recently discussed the significant choice he and other Democratic Party members made to leave their long-time also political base and join the National Platform Party. And according to Impuga, the decision, though difficult, was driven by their desire to give a new leadership by chance, and that is what we did see happening in there. But exactly how did it end? I really want to say maybe things don't work out well in terms of also how they work. And now Impuga acknowledged that presenting Bobi Wine as a political figure posed initial challenges, and that is where we had to introduce him to key stakeholders to show people and who he was beyond music career, and that's what exactly we did see Impuga also talking about. Now many also were unfamiliar with his ideas and political vision. So we took also the task of bridging that gap, and that is also what we did see Impuga acknowledge on. Now, since its formation, National Republic has become a powerful presence in Uganda's opposition. Impuga believes that by backing Chagola's leadership, they have opened also a new possibilities for political also the engagements, bringing fresh energy to the national politics, and also the conversations around also the discussions in relation to politics in there. Now, previously underrated, and today also the National Platform Party has already brought on leaders who are serving and those who are also not known. And this time around, we hope this also really will be continuing. And if you look at the next elections, we are yet waiting for the roadmap to be released. And the reforms already today up to date have not been presented. And how do we also really engage in all that? And how ready are we for these reforms? Because up to date, people are waiting for the reforms, but the reforms are not yet out. Because many people have been asking government to come up with these reforms, but we are closing down the months. Shall they be released next year? That is what we expect EC to go on and also tell us. Because at the moment, yes, they are conducting and mapping the number of PWDs in the country, which is a good gesture. But when shall we have also these reforms? Because many of the times people have been waiting for these reforms, and that is where it will be also quite interesting for us to also see those reforms, and that is where we would also want to see that happening. And that is where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside, and as we move on, opposition has now criticized government amid its coffee bill choice, and that is what we did see happening in the chaos in there. Now opposition has now come out to openly criticize and condemn the government following last week's also chaotic scenes witnessed in Parliament during the preliminary to pass, that is the 2024 Coffee Amendment Bill. And that's what we did happening there now. Opposition leaders argue that the events also really that highlights a breakdown of democratic principles, underscores what they describe as authoritarian nature of also government's also administration, and that is what we did happening in there. And now opposition members are now urging that also the public to also carefully consider the motives by also of those they elect, questioning whether they also represent and also serve the party interests or truly advocate for the people they serve in there. And that is what we did see happening, and the opposition members have also come out to also condemn that. And we hope at the end of the day that also such issues of chaos not happen again, and that is where we want to see issues of chaos be ended and let them be history. And the statement also the General Singh, the leader of opposition parliament, said, "We have been warning you repeatedly, things in parliament are deteriorating and no one seems to be in control, not even the speaker." And that is exactly what we are seeing. But who is now in control if the speaker is not in control? That is exactly what we also want to know in there. Now the phrase, "the ayes have it," commonly used to signal majority vote in parliament, also become a symbol of contention for the opposition, who claim it was manipulated during the recent vote. And that is where we hope also that these people also will be getting the opportunity of also dealing with these issues in that. Now the phrase has also become common, where the opposition also have claimed that this government interference violated the separation of powers, that is from also different also arms, and that is where they are also feeling there's a bit of interruption. And now, despite also feeling disheartened by the recent events, Senyonyi believes that the opposition has gained the conviction needed to reveal the government's true nature, that is the public, and that is exactly what we are waiting to see. And how ready are we for all that? That's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside with, but we hope the issues of the opposition being also really opposed is not good, because they have the powers. And I really want to say, in a democracy without opposition, then definitely people are not going to be having a proper leadership, and that's why we need them. And that's why we need also to be respected, and that's why we need the ideas of the opposition to be respected. And at the end of the day, that would also bring about also the democracy that we want as a country. Because if you look at democracy, many times people are doubting the democracy of this country. Why? Because issues of opposition, in most cases, are not also being given also keen attention, according to opposition members also in there who fail, also despised and also neglected in there, because their issues are not being also given keen attention to. And that is where, at the end of the day, they feel disheartened. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside as we move on. Remember, so many stories going to make rounds both locally, nationally, and internationally. I will be also letting you know still of what's happening in there. Now, 15 Chambogo University students have been arrested for protesting against the ECO project. This is another story we're seeing where the Buganda Road Coach Chief Magistrate in Kampala has remanded 15 Chambogo University students who were arrested on Monday morning for protesting against the East African crude oil pipeline, a project that also is also aiming at transporting the fuel also from Uganda to Tanzania. Now the students also include that is Simon Peter Wafula, Gary Wetaka, Martin Serambala, we have Arafat Mawanda, Akram Katende, we have Son Kevin Dedo, Noah Katiti and Oscar Niwagaba, Humphrey Undo and also Bernard Matenyo, Nicholas Pere, Shadia Nabukenya, Shafik Kalyango and Mark Makoba, and these are people who have been arrested also in relation to those issues of the ECOP demonstration in there. And we hope this time around that this also will to continue, because if you look at issues of people being arrested, I believe people have their rights to demonstrate. It's actually provided for in the Constitution. If I feel I'm not happy about something, I can still demonstrate about it. I have the rights, I have the guts to say, no, this is what I've rejected, and this is why we are rejecting it on this ground and this. But it has to be under the guidance of the security, which also sometimes people feel is not offering them the kind of maybe environment. And this is also where we now want to ask, how can we be able to solely address these issues? First of all, of democracy being also violated, and this will also where people's rights have to be respected, where people's opinions must also be given keen attention to, because if at all these attentions are not being given, then that is how dangerous we are going to be finding it. Now, they were on Monday evening arraigned before a grade 1 magistrate, that's Miss Sunula Nabozo, Most of them were shirtless and who read those charges of common news against them, and they were told to apply for bail, and if they had issues, they have substantial sureties, and that is what we did see happening also against also these issues. Now they however denied the charges and asked court also to give them a short adjournment, arguing that they are also students and that their belongings, including mobile phones, were confiscated by police before they could also contact their relatives and friends also to stand as surety. And that is exactly what we did is happening in there. And Ms. Nabozo remanded them to Luzira prison until November 26th for mention of their case in there. Now the state prosecutor, Mr. Alan Muchunguzi, told court that the police investigations to the case are still ongoing, and the state also the state told court that the group and others still at large on November 11th at 24 Parliamentary Avenue, that is in Central Division, Kampala, made the procession in the middle of the road, and while carrying placards and banners, an act that is not also really authorized by the law and therefore causing annoyance and obstruction or inconvenience to the public in exercise of common rights. Now, according to the court records, Mr. Gonzaga Semanda, who is the complainant in the case, and supervisor at the main gate of Parliament stated that around 1:30 p.m., while at the station, heard also names coming from Parliamentary Avenue of this group coming also with the placards, and that is where we are seeing it happening. And if you look at the ECOP and the court documents, further indicate that the group was also carrying placards with words like "prioritize nature now" and "ECOP endangers communities, stop it now." And ECOP is a pipeline that also will transport our oil produced from Uganda to Tanzania. That's also where we shall be seeing that happening, and that is what exactly is causing problems. But we hope also that these people will be coming to a round table and also to end also these issues in relation to ECOP, because it's not the very first time we are seeing protests against ECOP, and this is where I hope those who are vulnerable, those who are against the project, must now come up and settle down and sit down with government. Let government also bring them on board and make them understand the benefits of this project, because much as they are looking at the disadvantages, but what about the advantages of this project? Let us look about them, and that is where I want to say, let government come out on board and make sure that they sit down with also those disgruntled groups and arresting them, because arresting them will not address the problem. Because it's not the very first time we are seeing these projects and these demonstrations all going on. And if government also sit also down with them, I want to assure you that demos are going to be continuing. These demos will continue until the project will be continuing also with its own issues in there. And that's where we are going to be leaving the discussion aside. And we hope at the end of the day that this also will be also ending in the end. That's where we're going to be leaving that discussion and still looking at what's happening in politics. This time around coming out from Bobby Wine, and he says Museveni's overstay in power is a major challenge for Uganda. And remember, he is in his tour, that's in some of the areas in the eastern Uganda. Now, National Republican Party, our president, that is Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, Bobby Wine has asked the electorate in Kisoro district, Western Uganda, to vote also for his party candidate. That's November 14th by-election of the district women in parliament. That's if they want better service delivery. And remember, all these candidates are now moving to also campaign for their candidates. Recently, we did see Akena also ask the voters in that Bukit sub-region and Kisoro also to vote for their candidate. And now we are seeing National Unity Platform also moving in there to still ask also the voters of that part also to vote for their candidate. Now, Kisoro district is one of the strongholds that's of the ruling National Resistance Movement Party, and has seen President Museveni also declared winner with almost 100% in the previous elections organized over the years. However, with several unfulfilled government pledges, including that construction of John Calais Institute of Health of Science and Technology, expanding Kisoro airstrip to accommodate bigger aircrafts, and tamaking of the tourism roads, which became impassable when it rains, several voters have also been left questioning the capacity of Museveni's regime to resolve the problems, and that's exactly what we see happening. Now, while campaigning for his party flag bearer, Ms. Sultana Salim, on Monday, Mr. Kyagulanyi asked the electorate to vote an opposition candidate if they also want the government pledges to be fulfilled, and that is exactly what we did see happening in there, because if you look at issues of pledges, many of the times in most of the regions people are still demanding for these pledges. But I hope this time around we are going to be seeing some of those pledges be answered, because the government may not be in position necessarily to answer all these pledges, but the few can be fulfilled within also the period of the next general elections. And that is where at the end of the day, I really want to say, let us be patient, and we hope at the end of the day, government may not shouldn't only remain also by those promises. We want to see those pledges be fulfilled, because if they are fulfilled, then the trust of the members of the public in the government will be continuing, and if at all the government does also do that, then the trust is going to be eminent, and we hope at the end of the day, this also will also continue to happen in there. And leaving that discussion aside and still looking at the other candidates and other candidates also vying for this seat, we have Ms. Rose Kabagenyi, who also won the NRM also seat as the flag bearer in there, and Ms. Akifeza Grace Ngabirano, who lost also in this and will be aspiring as an independent candidate. We have Juliet Musanenese, who is of the Forum for Democratic Change. We have Ms. Chimpaye Aisha vying as UPC candidate, and the Kidro District Woman Member of Parliament as seat fell vacant in September this year following the death of Minister Mateke, Sarah, who died after short illness in there, and that is how we are seeing this happening. And we hope at the end of the day that this also will also be able to end peacefully in there, because we want to see how this, of course, will be ending. We want to see how these elections will be ending peacefully in there without any bloodshed, and that is where at the end of the day we shall be seeing those who maybe are wanted by the electorate will be voted in there, and that is where we shall be seeing maybe service delivery improve. That's why we're leaving that discussion aside. Electricity exports grow by 57%. This is another we're seeing where electricity exports have experienced what we call a remarkable growth of 43% over the last 5 years, with cumulative earnings growing, that is at US dollars 184.7 million US dollars, which is an equivalent that's of 655 billion over the period. And Bank of Uganda indicates that Uganda had in the period under review exported 1.95 million megawatts per hour of electricity, also returning 43% increase in earnings, that is from shillings 21 million US dollars, which is an equivalent of 75.6 billion US dollars. In June 2020, we also did see an increase. Now the growth in exports has been consistent in the last 5 years, increasing that's from 21 million US dollars, which is an equivalent that's of 75.6 billion Ugandan shillings. And now in June 2020, it rose. That's from 30.8 million US dollars, which is an equivalent of 110 billion in June of 2021, and now to 40 million US dollars, which is an equivalent of 144 billion in June 2022. Now that also shows that in June 2023, electricity exports rose. That is to 44 million US dollars, which is an estimate of 158 billion US dollars, before rising further to 48.8 million US dollars. That is an equivalent of 175 billion Ugandan shillings. That is in June 2024, and that is according to our experts who have also made that, and Dr. Patricia Lito. The Minister of Energy Assistant Commissioner, that's of Communication and Information Office Management, said over the weekend, said also the earnings have been boosted also by increased demand from Kenya, the commissioning of Mbarara Mirama 220 kilowatts also transmission, and increased demand from the Democratic Republic of Congo, which also the country of Uganda is supplying in there. Now, according to Electricity Authority, as of June 2024, Uganda's total energy installed capacity stood, that is at 20.48.1 megawatts, of which, as of December 2023, about 9,807.8 megawatts were consumed locally. Now, in the last 5 years, Uganda has grown also capacity by 67%, from just also 1.251 megawatts, that's in 2019 in there. And that is what exactly we are seeing in relation to this electricity. And the growth in electricity export is expected to contribute to Uganda's economic growth, which is also projected to grow by 7% in the 2024-2025 financial year. And the electricity subsector is also expected to play a vital role in Uganda's industrialization efforts. And that is what exactly we are following up on. We want to see more industries be established. And as we are proud of, as we are also proud of exporting, as we continue to solely say that we are exporting this and that, let's also look at how we can be able to solely see this electricity have an impact. That's in the local communities. And I really want to say we have a number of areas being gazetted also as industrial parks, one in Madiokolo, and there's another in Nebi, and I believe also in Koboko we have one. So I think it is high time that the government also extends electricity to those areas. Let's have the industries. Let's attract investors. Let's welcome foreign investors to come and establish industries, and that would, at the end of the day, bring the change we want to see in the country. And the change also is to industrialization, where many of the young people are going to be employed, and cases, first of all, of unemployment are going to be reduced. And I hope at the end of the day, that would also really bring in change that we want to see as a country. And I want to say, as a country, we are ready for this. What remains is government to extend the powers and bring the foreign investors. Even if we have the local investors, let's bring them on board. Let's have them and let them come and establish industries that would also employ a number of our youths. Today, if you talk about industries, they are really doing a lot in terms of employing young people and many other citizens. Recently, I was in Kampala and in Jinja, and on my way back, I was able to see a number of people coming out from the factories, most especially along Mbalala in Mbarara. If you look at along Mbalala, which is already on Mukono, that is Mukono, that's Jinja Road in Mukono. If you look at that area, on Mbalala industrial area, you will realize that there are many factories in there, and when it clocks to evening, many people are moving out of those factories, and many already come out to work. And how many people do you think are employed in there, and how much money do you think government is generating from those factories in terms of foreign exchange? I really want to say there's a lot. So I think establishing these industries is really an initiative that we must also be able to advocate for, and want to see more of those industries be established. And that would, at the end of the day, make sure that the government also really improves on its foreign exchange, and that would also, at the end of the day, enable the rates of employment or unemployment in this country reduce. That is what we are looking forward to, and that's where the industry park is called Onvoro in Nebi, and that also Madeoko also should be worked on, and that would also at the end of the day improve on the livelihoods of the citizens in this country, and that is where we are ending with that discussion. But still, as we move on with the discussion, before we also summarize this half, Hima Cement investor urged to redevelop Kileme Mines is another story we're seeing, where Sarai Group Limited, which currently acquired Hima Cement from French Swiss building materials company, that is Lafarge Holcim, has been evaluated as the best bidder for the development of lots of Kileme Mines in the southwestern Uganda, and this is what we are learning in there. And if you look at also the Kileme Mines, personally I had an opportunity of moving in there, and the Kileme Mines is actually one of those areas which is also employing a number of people. And if we have those areas where the minerals are there, and I really want to say we would be able to solely get a lot of monies for ourselves, but it becomes a challenge once we have these industries, and then the citizens also do not have an impact of it. But with the Kileme Mines, I really want to say there's a school that we did see happening in there that also is being supported under the mines, and the hospital, which I believe also had challenges over the years. But with the restoration of this facility, I believe those also will be history. And once that happening, now the three companies also indicated also have been also notified and grumbling also, and where we did see that happening. And remember, we did see the termination of the contract, and up to now the facility has been redundant. But hope this time around, let's revive also the activities of the Kileme Mines, which we did see over the years has not been also working. But I had an opportunity of moving in there, and I was able to enter the factories, and you read there's really a lot more benefit that this is bringing to the country. And we want to see more of this, and that is exactly what we are pushing out for, and the development of a facility is the best way, and that is where we hope the people of Kasese will be able to get the opportunity of now working this time around again. But with that, we come to the end of this hour of the show. It's still a KOKOLIRIKO live show with me, Farish Majid. We are still remaining with at least 30 minutes, where we shall be also having what's happening internationally and what continues to make rounds in the world of sport. For now, we take a short commercial break. My name is Farish Majid.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
In the dance of shadows and light lies the heart of Uganda's resilience amidst the challenges of the night, where innovation meets necessity and education refuses to be dimmed, where connection thrives in the absence of power. Embrace the power of the sun with StarTime's solar range of solutions and empower your journey towards a brighter tomorrow. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back into this last half of the discussions for today, and this is the KOKOLIRIKO live show with me, Farish Majid, and today happens to be a Tuesday, and in case you are still wondering which month it is already the month of November, 12 days down into the month. The question is, how is this month ending, and how is the year coming to an end on your side in terms of the plans that you laid at the beginning of the year? Because if you look at these issues, then you realize that also really many times people don't also really know maybe of their plans also that they laid at the beginning of the year, and they must now be forgetting on some of those also really plans and achievements. But we are saying do not give up. Even if you haven't also really done very much, you still have to do the small that you had also in your plans. At the end of the day, if you planned also really wisely, if at all you planned also within your limits, then trust me, surely you will be in position also to make sure that you achieve. Because many times if you also really become overambitious by having also really plans that are too huge beyond you, then it may become a huge task. And also difficult for you to also really attain what you also really want to attain in there. But all in all, allow me welcome on board in a special way from wherever you're watching us from, in case you are just joining us, and in case you also really watching us for the very first time as well. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV, and the show that wakes you up, and also really to make sure that you are an informed person. And I really want to say to have also an informed mind. At the end of the day, you are going to be making decisions that are also really very much also really known. And that is where at the end of the day, you're not going to be taking actions that also really will be leaving people questioning on your integrity and leaving also really people questioning on who you are. That is where you need to also really make sure that you watch the show that entirely will be giving that information of what also really is making rounds in and across the world. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside. And now starting off this hour with also what's happening in Kalere. I really want to assure you that farmers, the businessmen, are there counting losses after fire gutted the market in there. And if you look at the Kalere market, this is actually one of those markets that is supplying a number of people within Kampala. Most especially those who reside in Kawempe, Gayaza, Makerere, Kavule, and other areas that surround the area in the Mulago, not forgetting Mulago. And many of those people will come and buy foodstuffs from that facility. And now fire has destroyed most of the stores, leaving the market vendors, most especially our vulnerable women, in losses in there. But how can we be in a position to solely make sure that those facilities are not destroyed? Because most of the time, these are people who are looking for survival. These are people who are looking for money also to make their ends meet. And most of these women also, they depend on loans. If you move to markets, you will get to know how these people are also in misery. You'll find that most of those financial institutions, most especially those who are lending loans at small interest rates, are within the markets. That means most of these people are operating on loans. Most of the time, they also depend on loans to solely increase their capital in there because they have school fees to pay, others are taking care of the families, others are single mothers. There's really a lot that these people go through and keeping them at loss is really something which I want to say is very, very much bad, and we must also really understand what causes these fires. And if at all they are caused by individuals, let's bring these individuals to book. Let's identify them. So let's shame them, because if at all people are also doing this, then that is quite absurd, because leaving these women crying. Most of the times when this fire also burns, you see the mothers wailing. I remember way back during also the scenarios where some of these markets could burn. You will see the pain and the misery in the faces of our mothers and our sisters and our brothers who are into these markets, who are looking for survival, who are looking for ends to meet. That is how dangerous and how risky the behavior is. Now, police on Monday, November 11th of this year, say they are investigating circumstances of fire outbreak that occurred at around 1:46 a.m. That's at Kalere Market, and several traders who owned kiosks at the market were left counting losses. And according to Kampala Metropolitan Police Deputy Spokesman Luko Isjire, say that the fire is believed to have started also at the east end of the market on Gayaza Road, also spreading rapidly and destroying several wooden stalls. And that is what is happening there. Now, Isjire urged the government to conduct regular inspections of electricity connections, particularly in wooden structures. But what could have caused this? Could it be an issue of electricity in terms of wiring? Let's find out. Let's also really understand what in most cases causes these fires, because sometimes when these fires happen like this, we hear stories of bad also activities happening. Now, Kalere Market is one of those that also has been prone to fire incidents, and this is not the very first time we are seeing fire destroying the facility. And where will this leave the market vendors at? Most especially our mothers and the vulnerable community members who are into this facility. I really want to say it's going to be leaving them with pain and also in tears as they are looking also for ways of replacing their stocks in there. Now, in September 2013, a night fire incident at Kalere Market caused losses which also stretched to millions of shillings, and many traders also pointed fingers at market leadership wrangles as likely cause of the monstrous blaze that could have swept also really through the market and long also really caused the fire in the big. Even if we have issues as market vendors, most especially the leadership, because in most times we see each and everyone wanting to be the leaders of these facilities. How do we also end this? And how can we be in position to also make sure that this does not happen is what really matters? Because if you look at all this, then definitely you get to realize that indeed there's really a lot more that we need to do, and that is sort of where we would also want to see this continuing to happen. But really my humble appeal is that let people learn from practices also really of those calibers sort of what is happening in those countries. And that is where at the end of the day it's going to be a bad scenario and something very much bad for us to be handling. But all in all, there's really a lot more that we need to also really undertake as we are getting to also move with those discussions. And at the end of the day, that we will also really want to see this happening, because we may be talking about it happening in that market that's supplying also many areas, but not knowing it is actually something that may also happen to any other market. Because if you look at that Kalere Market, many of the families within Kampala, most especially those residing in Kawempe, Kalere itself, Rubaga, and many Mulago and other areas come for the foodstuffs here, and other areas even move from as far as Namboli to come and buy foodstuffs from this market. It is actually a market that is doing a lot, and many of the women vendors also in there they also really empowered themselves. And for them to count losses like this, then it's quite absurd. But we hope government also can still rush out to their rescue and also really support them with also the necessary help in there, which at the end of the day will make sure that they come back to business, because we wouldn't want to see people be thrown out of business. Because if they're into business, we know the benefits. They're going to be paying taxes. They're going to be paying their children in school. They're going to take care of the families. And that is exactly what we want. An empowered society is actually one that is also easier to be governed. And I know of one leader who said ruling poor is the hardest. And that is where, as clergy is actually talk to them, that also leading the poor also has a direct or indirect implication on the offertory. And also that is where we want also to see people work. And that is one area where I will believe in discussion aside. Now looking at what's happening in the Mulago, in the world of crime, the ex-Mulago Executive Director Biarugaba's case has been deferred. That is to February next year, and that is where we need the case in which the former Mulago Hospital Executive Director, that is Dr. Baterena Biarugaba, and 6 others are accused of causing financial shillings worth of 14 billion to the government has been adjourned to February 14th of the year, also 2025 in there, because if you look at all this, then definitely you realize that solely that these adjustments solely mean a lot, and we are still keenly following up on and want to see how this, of course, will be ending, and we hope at the end of the day, this solely will be ending peacefully. Now, the case was adjourned today, on November, that was yesterday, November 11th of this year, by the clerk to the Anti-Corruption Court. Acting Chief Magistrate, that's Albert Asimwe, and the accused are being represented by their lawyers, that is David Kamukama, Joseph Luzige, John Musisi, and brothers Katunguka, Zara Tukikiriza, and Sad Seninde, and Enoch Kaluba, who are also standing also for these also accused persons in there. Now the accused are currently on bail, or who are currently out on bail, have since been denied charges of abuse of office, contrary to Section 11, Subsection 1 of the Anti-Corruption Act, and causing financial loss, contrary to Section 20 of and Subsection 1 of the Act, which is only talking about corruption. Now the offense also, if you are told they are found guilty of causing financial loss, attracts a maximum sentence of 14 years imprisonment, that is upon conviction, while abuse of office elicits that's a 7-year jail term, if at all they will be found guilty in here. Remember, right now they're on bail, but that doesn't say their freedom is being guaranteed. Now it is alleged that also Biarugaba, Nyeko, and Mwasa, between 2019 and 2020 at Mulago Hospital, being employed by the government and the authorized also users of the integrated financial management system, abused their respective offices and floated payment procedures by regularly also really processing payments of over shillings 3 billion to Setramaco International Limited. And now the money was purportedly paid for supply of consumables to be used also in the routine servicing and repair of large-size sterilization equipment on alleged capacity of 1,500 liters, which never existed at the said hospital, an act also that was presented to the interest of the employer. And Kata Nokware, between 2019 and 2020, accused of irregular requisitioning of shillings 3 billion, that is to pay to Sotomayor for property also to supply consumables of non-existing also services. And that is exactly what we did see also these people be arrested for. But we hope these crimes also do not also happen again, because as a public servant, you are serving on behalf of the government, and you must serve on the interests of government. That is also where we wouldn't want to see you engage in corruption, because corruption has greatly undermined the development of this country, where government loses huge sums of monies in the hands of persons who also pocket these monies and also just use it for their own abilities and not their own also needs, other than also on the needs of the citizens. Because imagine these monies we're talking about, these are billions. What could have billions of money done also in terms of service delivery to the citizens who are being transferred to Mulago? Because if you look at Mulago National Referral Hospital, then you realize that it is actually a facility that is attracting thousands and thousands of people also from Uganda and across borders, because we have citizens who come and also from the country, and then we have foreigners who are also as well taken to Mulago, and that is where we see this also happening. But we hope at the end of the day, issues of corruption which have been existing in there shouldn't happen. And now the two accused also of receiving that shillings double payment, these are cases that we have seen this also being arrested for, and we hope at the end of the day, this is where we shall be seeing also these persons serve also the purposes also for which they were arrested. If they are found guilty, even if they are found innocent, let them be released. But we also want to say this should also be able to serve as a warning. And there's a question to whoever is given an opportunity to serve the citizens by the government, and that's why the National Integrity Awards today has come up in place to acknowledge such individuals who are doing their work in a transparent way without corruption. And this goes to the rest of the citizens. How maybe is there any citizen whom you know is serving you diligently? Let's submit their names for the National Integrity Awards, so that this also motivates the rest of the citizens to serve the locals with due diligence. And that is exactly what we are looking forward to, and we hope at the end of the day that the rest of the stakeholders also get to learn what is happening and how best they can be in position to also serve the locals with due diligence in there. Because if they can supply also serve the citizens with also in a corrupt manner, then definitely that is where we are going to be losing a lot of monies in terms of solely paying them when it comes to salaries, in terms of paying them also in their allowances. We are going to be losing money, and the money also will not be having its value. and yet government gives its monies to also realize a value, and for which value is also the citizens must be able to appreciate what is happening also in there. And that is where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside, and now to look at also what is happening internationally in this remaining few minutes. You realize there's a lot more that is happening, and starting it off also where we're seeing how this is happening. This is in China. The condition of good friends, condition of old wine is also what's happening. And people also champions China, people to also people exchange with Latin America is what we are seeing. And this is also in the new vision, where condition of good friends, condition of old wine, Chinese President Xi Jinping cited a Brazilian proverb to describe the long also running friendship between the Chinese and the Latin American people when addressing the Brazilian National Congress during a visit, that's the South American country, in 2014. And it was Xi's 11th visit to Brazil after assuming the Chinese presidency. And in the speech, he told stories of people also exchanges between the two countries. And he also quoted Brazilian lyricist, novelist Paulo Coelho, and mentioned Brazil's TV series Extraura, which also quite popular in China way back in the 1980s. And that is exactly what we are seeing. And today, if you talk about international relations, it is actually what we must also be able to front and also push out for, because if at all we look at also these issues and these relations, most especially between these international countries, it has a crucial role that also plays in terms of development. Now, cultural exchanges are a crucial pillar of interaction for China and Latin American people. The two greatest civilizations also see has repeatedly stressed that the people amity is vital also to the development and cooperation between the countries, and that's what's happening in China. And we hope also that these relations will be also continuing, and we hope also that this does not end. And this is where we want to see this moving on well. And this will not only stop with China. I want to see relations between China and Uganda. That would also be well, because that is where we will see the Chinese government also coming on board and do also what will also bring about development. Now, leaving that aside, looking at what's happening in America, Trump administration takes shape with high-profile appointments. Underway is what we are seeing now. Donald Trump has selected Florida Congressman, that Michelle Waltz, as the next national security advisor. And the two sources familiar with the matter told CBS News that the BBC's also U.S. news partner will also do that. Now, Florida Senior Senator Marco Rubio is reported in talks also to become the Secretary of State. Meanwhile, Florida Congressman Waltz is also being underlined in there. Elsewhere, Democrat Ruben Gallagher is on the course to beat Republican Larry Curry Lake in Arizona also very closely. That's in the Senate election in there, and this is also what we are seeing happening in America. Now, Democrats look on set to also hold a Senate seat in Arizona in a rare piece of good news. That's for the party to emerge from the election, and that's exactly what we continue to also see happening in America in there, and that's in their democracy, and this is where we also see that happening. Meanwhile, Saudi Crown Prince says Israel committing genocide in Gaza, and that's what we are seeing happening. And the Saudi Prince has accused Israel of committing also genocide in Gaza. In our Saudi Crown Prince, that's Mohammed bin Salman, has condemned Israel's actions, that's in Gaza, as genocide. In some of the harshest also public criticism, that's of the country by the Saudi official in this year also in there. Now, speaking at Summit of Muslim and Arab Leadership Prince, and the Prince also criticized Israel attacks, that's on Lebanon and Iran in there, and in a sign also of improving ties between rivals, Riyadh and Tehran, he warned Israel against launching attacks on the Iranian soil, and Saudi's de facto leader was joined by other leaders, presenting also a call that's for total Israel withdrawal from the West Bank and Gaza in there, and that is what we are seeing happening in that area in there, and we hope also that also will be ending. If you look at all those wars, then you realize there's a lot more that has been happening in there, and this is time also that we end also the war in Gaza, and that's what we are keenly following up on, and maybe want to see also that end. And the war is also not only in Gaza, the Ukraine also is still having instability, but we hope with also the emergence of Donald Trump as part of his foreign policy, he will be also ending these wars. He actually promised peace, and that is what many people have been following up, and many people have been waiting to see maybe this also actualizing, and he actually promised that he will be doing that. And meanwhile, that is where we come to the end of the show, but before we get move out, we want to summarize the entire discussions with what's happening in the world of sports. And this is where we want to start off right from what's happening in the world of Big League. This day we don't have any games, and tomorrow we don't have any game, but for Big League, we will be returning on the 14th. And as a reminder, we shall be seeing Boma, who is also proving to be one of those stubborn sides. They will be taking on Calvary, and this game will be in Yumbe. Paida Black Angels will be up in action against Busoga United, and this is where we shall be seeing this game also coming back in Barokoro. Buhimba will be hosted by Gaddafi, and they will be hosting Gaddafi. That's where we shall be seeing that also happening, and we hope also that we will be moving on very well in there, and that is what is happening. And if you look at the 4 big leagues, somebody will be asking the first 3 teams. In the first 3 teams, we have Blacks Power sitting on the top with 13 points. We have Boma still in the same place with 13 points. Calvary is in the 3rd place with 10 points. Meanwhile, in the last 4, we have Mtungasaze with 4 points. Arua Hill is with 4 points. Busoga is with 4 points. And Maida is sitting in the last position with only 2 points. And that is how the 4 big league is competitive in there. And that also tells us that competitiveness is not only in the 4 big league. Meanwhile, the Ghana Premier League, we also still seeing the competitive part of it, and the games are actually getting interesting. And as we move on, every day the league is becoming better. And if you look at also the Ghana Premier League, it will be returning on the 20th, where we shall be seeing Police hosting Lugazi. URA will be hosting Viper Sports Club, and Bright Stars will be returning on the 21st, hosting Maroons in there, and that is how the Uganda Premier League also will be returning. And today, if you look at it, you will also there's really a lot more and how the games are getting competitive. And somebody will be interested maybe in wanting to know how the table standings are. KCA is comfortably in the 1st position with 18 points. Meanwhile, Vipers comes in the 2nd place with 17 points. Neck Football Club follows the trend with 13 points, with 17 points. And in the 4th place is Bull Football Club with 12 points. Express is in there with also the 12 points. The 5th place, UPDF in the 6th with 12 points. And in the last positions, we have Bright Stars with 6 points. Mbale Heroes in the 15th place with 4 points. And Kitara, which proved to be stubborn last season, this time round, summarizing the table with only 4 points. What happened to the team? Yet a lot of changes not happen in there is what we also need to understand. Now the team also needs to understand their challenges, and they can be also in position to also draw means and also address this concern. And that's where we would also want to see Kitara Football Club bounce back and be stubborn like last season, how many people also thought that they would be also winning the league in there. But this time around, what's happening is really a shocker to many people also in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving our discussions with, and more details to what's happening in the world of sports will be coming through with Owen Ezaga and Ida Suzy from 2 to 3 p.m. as the team will be here to give you that comprehensive and detailed analysis of what continues to make round in the world of sport. And that brings us to the end of the discussions, and that is where we shall be summarizing today's discussions solely that way in there. And up next is the news bulletin. I really want to say also let's also wait and have also what is happening in there. And to those also who have graduated, I want to wish them the very best in their next endeavors. And really among those I want to also congratulate is Sunday Tom, who also graduated with Moon University recently. I want to say congratulations, and he is our Daktari show host. And that means we have also really one person also who has also really brought something home, and we celebrate it. And with that, we are out until tomorrow. Have a good day.